But I do have to thank the McFarlands for asking me to come here today. When somebody asks you to talk about something that you like to visit about and talk about, it's kind of a little bump to the ego, and sometimes that's needed. I don't know how we got to talking about it the other night. My wife and I got to talking about our final days. So I told her, I says, well, when I die, if I die first, I says, I want you to sell all my stuff immediately. And she said, why is that? And I told her, I says, well, you'll probably find another guy, get remarried, and I don't want some idiot playing with my stuff. And she just kindly replied in that voice only a wife has, and, well, what makes you think I'm going to marry another idiot? Choosing the proper disinfectant, in my opinion, is a second part of a program called cleaning and disinfecting. In that system, there's 3 4-letter words. It's work, time, and there's a cost to it. There's a couple different methods for cleaning a building. One we just call the dry method. And that's where you brush or blow down the walls and you put the fans on and hope it sucks all the dust out. You also have another method called the wet, where you basically go in, you foam on a soap, you rinse the building down, and then you let the building dry. Cleaning is essential to disinfection. The success of a disinfectant sterilant efficacy is based on thorough cleaning. 85 to 90% of microorganisms are removed in the pre-cleaning process. The goal is microbial control and reduction. There was a study done at North Carolina University where they took a dirty wall. The CFU means colony forming units, and there was over 3 million colony forming units per square inch. They went in, just blew it down. That dropped it to 2,900,000. They let the building air out. That took it down another 3.5%, another 31%. They washed it with water. It dropped it to about 500,000. When they used a detergent, it dropped it more drastically yet. So the disinfection really only didn't have to kill a lot of it. All the disinfectants in the world, including formaldehyde, will not cover up the sin of improper cleaning. How can we measure that cleanliness? A couple different ways. Obviously, one of them is just inspect what you expect. It's visibly clean. Another one is the microbiologically clean, and that's where you monitor and collect swabs and air plates to measure and maintain and improve the hygiene. There is an alternative method. It's called bioluminescence testing. We just got one of these machines in. I haven't played with it a whole lot yet, but it'll tell you what's on the wall and give you instant results. As you can tell here, they used one of those machines for testing some incubators in a hatchery. And when there were no clean and they just pulled it out, those were the counts on the walls. When they just went in and rinsed, it did drop it down to, like you can see on hatcher A, B, and C. When they foamed it and rinsed it, it dropped it down all that much more. And of course you can see on hatcher D and E, when they actually got in and did some scrubbing and used some elbow grease, it dropped it down a whole lot more. And there a score of below 50 is considered clean. There's a couple different units we found that do a pretty good job. We call this a hydrofoamer. Basically what that is, it works off of the pressure from a garden hose. Works great for hatchers, incubators, works good in small rooms. We use it on our equipment in our warehouse. Would be good for like using on a skid loader, something small. We also have found this, this handy foamer is what we call it, and that hooks onto a high pressure sprayer. And as you can tell, if you need to do something like a big piece of equipment, do a wall in a room, do a big room, it really puts it on quick. We could probably do the whole side of one of this this room here in probably about 2-3 minutes just foaming on the soap. The one thing I hear from a lot of people is that we don't have time to put on the soap. Actually, the people that I've got started using it, it's actually cut their time because they aren't standing in the same place just rinsing all the time. Now the soap will actually pull the dirt off and you're just rinsing it away. There's a quote from International Hatchery Practice which says, "Too much emphasis is placed on the disinfectants and sanitizers and not enough on the overall approach to hygiene. The significance and importance of preparation and cleaning are often underestimated." To get into the disinfectants and the correct use. A disinfectant is a chemical agent that kills microorganisms except for resistant bacterial spores. Proper results is 100% kill of large bacteria, target viruses, and target fungi. And it may, and in parentheses it says should always, require a pre-cleaning. Why do we use disinfectants? Because under optimal conditions, which is a hatchery, incubator, or a hatcher, in 24 hours, one bacteria can become whatever that number is. We probably better get used to it. If something don't change in 3-4 years, it will be our federal deficit. The wrong disinfectant may not work as you'd planned it to. An example of that is formaldehyde. For formaldehyde to do the best it needs to do, it should actually be about 75 degrees outside with about 75% humidity. So obviously if you go into a building and it's not preheated, up in this part of the country in December, January, February, you aren't probably going to get a very good job. The 75 degrees and 75% humidity is why it's probably still one of the better ones that you can use in a hatchery, but then it's always been pre-cleaned. It doesn't work good on a dirty surface. Some different disinfectant properties that you need to look at when you choose one is a germicidal activity. Is it corrosive to the farm? Worker safety, obviously. Is there residual properties to it? Environmental issues, and as you know, that's becoming a big thing, and it's going to get worse. Foam, does it foam good? How other ways can you apply it? The compatibility with the soap, and is it suitable for use? Some of the selection criteria. Is the EPA registered in the documentation from them? Is it a broad spectrum? Does it cover bacteria, viruses, and the fungus? How quick does it work? Surface compatibility, quality and stability of the manufacturer, the application, which basically again is does it foam or can you put it on by fogging it, thermal fogging it, the personal safety and handling, and again the biodegradability. Formaldehyde has been classified as a human carcinogen by the World Health Organization Agency for research on cancer. Glutaraldehyde hasn't. That might be a factor in when you choose to use it or not. There's several different chemical disinfectant types. You got the phenols, there's quats, there's iodine, chlorine dioxide, hydrogen peroxide, there's hydrogen peroxide, peracetic acid, there's glutaraldehyde, formaldehyde, quat glutaraldehyde combinations. Of course, you can use alcohol or sodium hypochlorite. Some of the more common names of the phenols is Tektrol, Phenotec, Biofene, Environ. The thing with phenols, they do work good as a disinfectant. With continued use, you can build up you will see like a brown stain on the walls. I don't know how much longer they're going to be here. I think in Europe they've already been banned. You got quats. Some of the more common names of the different quats is Quatamone, the BioQuat 20, Quatside, BioSentry has a product called 904. These, I think, work good in hatcheries. They work best on a clean wall. You got the quat glutaraldehyde combination. These are a couple of products out there that have really come on strong the last years. One is Pheasant, the other one is synergized. The synergized has a really neat name for that product because when you mix a quat and a glutaraldehyde together, you actually do get some synergistic properties between the two. The quat kind of breaks down the cell wall, and the glutaraldehyde is, picture it as the bullet that actually goes in and does the killing. Chlorine dioxide, there are other products out there of these. These are just the more common ones that I picked to put down. And one of them is oxine, pro-oxine. There's another one called anthium dioxide. I'm not that familiar with the anthium dioxide product, but the oxine and the pro-oxine are rather unique products, and the more we've been working with them, the more enthused I've been getting about them. They have a really broad label. They can be used as a surface disinfectant. They can also be used as a waterline cleaner. And they just got a label, they just added to the label, the EPA did, that it was now cleared as a disinfectant in the water for poultry and livestock water. There's a hydrogen peroxide and parasitic acid. A couple of the different products, the SID 2000, Kickstart. The SID 2000 is more of a waterline cleaner. The Kickstart is basically the same thing, but it has some surfactants to it for that. The hydrogen peroxides, they can be a little on the corrosive side to some equipment. Glutaraldehyde, there's a mistake on this one. I think the Glutech should actually be back in that last slide with the quat glutaraldehyde combination. The aldehide, it's a 20% glutaraldehyde, works good. Doesn't foam very good, but it does work good. If you put all the little lines and squiggles together for a chemical, that chart that you see, it's actually kind of a cousin to formaldehyde. The importance of the inert ingredients with the disinfectant. And as an example, the iodine needs a certain percent of acid to keep the pH low from the iodine to remain active. The phenol compounds are not water soluble, so they must have a high grade of soap or they got to have some surfactants in it. The quats need surfactants and chelating agents in the formula to improve the microbial activity, especially against gram-negatives as Pseudomonas. And the hydrogen peroxide and parasitic must be stabilized properly so that the hydroxyl radical is available. Some different ways of putting them on. This is just like a backpack fogger. Work good in smaller rooms. We got some hatcheries that use these types of products. Thermal foggers, they're a fun way of putting it on. They're a little on the expensive side, but they do work well for disinfectants. That's kind of what it'll look like coming out of a thermal fogger. What that guy's got there is a K22. He's doing a greenhouse, but it's just a real fine fog. That unit right there will blow that fog probably about 200 feet. It's the advantage to one of those machines is that you're really never in the disinfectant. If you have the backpack sprayer, if you use a foamer, you're kind of in that area. And some of the, especially like the human resource people, they just get a little nervous when that happens. There's a picture right there. They're foaming it on. They're in a hog house on that one. That gives a little better picture of it. They're actually foaming a product on a semi-trailer. Now, if you're going to foam onto equipment like that, probably your best bet is just to let it set for 10-15 minutes and then rinse it off. If you're going to do a hatch or incubator, do a wall in a building, then you just let it dry on. Water lines, don't forget your water lines to clean and disinfect them between flocks. I know Susan's going to be here tomorrow and she'll do a whole lot better job explaining it than I will. That is just a unit that we have found that works pretty good if you want to put something into the water lines and keep it at constant. You got to use disinfectants with precaution. Before, read the label and the information about the product. You'll see these little signs on most of your disinfectant jugs. And if you do have a chemical room, make sure that these are on the outside of the chemical room. What those do, they tell the local fire department if there's ever a problem, if there's ever a fire, when they come there, they kind of tells them what's in those rooms. Like the red is flammability, the yellow is if it reactivity, if it reacts with anything, and the one is a safety issue. So this particular product, there's a little issue with the safety. It is more of a flammable type unit, but there is no reactivity issues with it. This one they definitely want to know about. There you can see it is a little bit flammable and it does react with certain products. And there is an acid product in it. I had one there, it said read the label. I just kind of picked on Pheasant for a little bit. Just take the time to read the label, see what the directions say, see when you should be using it and how it's supposed to be used. I'm sure you all have the material safety data sheets in a book. I would suggest putting it in the chemical room and also have a copy in the office. There again, there's your blue, your red, your yellow. It tells what they are. And this should be on all products that you have on the farm, including soaps, basically everything they got. There is an MSDS sheet for it. But you can go down through that. It gives you the physical characteristics of it. It gives you the hazard ingredients, the chemical characteristics, what it looks like, if there's a fire, explosion hazard with it, reactivity, gives you the health hazard on it. You can see on there it's a liquid product. It gets down to the symptoms rating to it for inhalation. It says cough, sore throat, inhalation of vapors may cause respiratory problems, and trust me, that is true. I've learned that one the hard way. And then it just kind of gives you the safety, the precautions for handling it. The control measures, and then the transportation. If you do have to ship it, it just tells the shipper what you should have on there for a product for in the truck. One other thing, and I apologize, I don't have anything on it here, but you can, some companies are now making what they call an RTU MSDS sheet, and what that means, it's a ready to use. So after the product is diluted out, it'll look a whole lot better and a whole lot safer to use. As an example, Pheasant, everything that you've seen here is in the raw, or where it's in the jug. You put 1/3 of an ounce per gallon, and it does change some of the status of the product. So if everybody works together, you can reach your common goal.